Welcome to the Museum Roadshow. I'm Roger Engstrom. Today we're over here inside the old Washington School. This school was built in the late 1800s. It closed in 1997. This is the last year it was part of the Detroit Lakes public school system. There has been a school on this site since about 1880 is when the first schools were built here. The Washington School remained pretty much the same brick building until 1961. In 1961, an addition was added to the south side, and that was continued to be used then until the school closed in 1997. This school celebrated 100 years of excellence in the late 90s, and it was a very good school, very much of a neighborhood school, and there was a lot of fond memories of the kids that went to school here that will stay with them the rest of their lives. It's a shame it will have to be demolished in a few months here because it is no longer capable of housing what needs to be done. So
it was a very nice old school. When I first came here, you know, it was just the old building, and there were 8 teachers, and we had our lunchroom in the basement.
One thing about Washington School is as everybody knows, it's an older building, but when it had so much character, the wood banisters going up to all the floors. You could hear people above you because it would creak, the wood floors. I mean, they were all wood floors. In the classrooms, there was, the cabinets were wood with glass fronts. Yep. And then you had the classroom, but then behind there was the coat room. And some used it as a coat room, and some used it as maybe an area for kids to do small groups, or the teacher their desk back there. But yeah, I was looking in there today, and you know, all that wood in there. I thought you don't see that anymore these days in schools. Yeah. And then everything was we used the basement. The library was down in the basement there, so you always, you know, you were either going upstairs or downstairs.
When we had to get together as a staff, like our lunchroom sometimes would be in the boiler room, and we'd sit in the boiler room and in amongst the, you know, the pipes and everything else. And then we moved to an actual little smaller classroom, I believe it was, that tutoring room, and that's where our lunchroom was for the staff. And when we have a fire drill, the kids would go down because it had a neat tunnel down there. Everybody would go down there and huddle down in there. And, or I should say a tornado drill. Everyone would huddle down there, and then they pulled the big doors shut. Those big old metal doors, and the kids would just go like, whoa.
Yeah. I remember the big windows and the light shining in and the sunshine, and seeing the birds in nature, which of course we liked, but they weren't very energy efficient. And the old wooden floors, they were creaky. My grandfather oiled them with a big wide oil mop. I remember the chalkboards and the erasers.
My dad was Alvin Wilkie, and he was the janitor for about 100 years at Washington School. I can't remember exactly. I think it was 25 years or so. I didn't really spend too much time with him working there, because when I did, he put me to work. One of the things he had me do was to pick up all the erasers in all the rooms, and each teacher had a special eraser, and they weren't too keen on it if I mixed up the erasers. So what he did, he had me take them down the basement, and there were 2 big boilers down there. One of them was coal-fired, and it was to heat the water that went up into the radiators that hissed and sputtered through the whole school and heated it. And the other boiler was backup. And so when the backup boiler wasn't being used, it still had a purpose. And we could open up one door of the boiler, and there was quite a draft going up. And there was a brush device, and I don't know if he made it or where it came from, but you could hold the brush and run the erasers across it, and all of that dust and chalk dust would go up the chimney and clean the erasers. Then I'd put them back into the rooms again.
Well, it was always swept and nice and clean, you know, and we tried to pick up and not leave a mess for the janitors, but they came every day. Sometimes they were here they came to my room before I even left. So we had a little chat too, you know. And everything was nice and clean and perfect. I can't imagine them doing any improvement on the work they did.
I remember after, third grade, we got to go up to fourth grade, which was in the older part of the school, and that was like a big transition. Everyone was excited for that, with the hardwood floors. And then we had like the big cloakrooms inside the classrooms. I thought it was really cool. I've always, liked the floors. I mean, they creaked a little bit and, it was old, but I thought it was really neat.
I started at Washington School actually when I was in third grade. So I guess one of my first memories is when you come in the front door, you have to walk up the steps, and the steps were so creaky in the wood floor, and everything echoed, and that was kind of my first memory of the school.
It's one thing, when you were in this building, if I were teaching down here, I could hear everything that happened in the room above. And, us having to have our own Phi-Ed class, often you'd have Phi-Ed in the classroom, and it made it a bad teaching situation for the room below you.
I taught between third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever, and I was on the top building the one time, and you'd think somebody was coming because the floors were just creaking, and you'd sit there, you'd be by yourself, it might be 10 o'clock on Friday night, whatever, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, somebody will show up, and nobody ever did, so you kind of got used to that, but then when someone would show up, it seemed like then, they weren't creaking at all, but it was just, it had a lot of character.
Not many buildings in northern Minnesota exist as what they were built for when they're that age. So, you'd walk the stairs, you'd walk the hallways, and it had the old oak floors that, would creak. But yet, you knew it was a solid place where good things were happening, and it had been for many, many years. So you knew you were walking in a building where, where kids and had grandparents, great-grandparents also go to school there. And, you somewhat took it for granted, but you also knew it was a place that was historical and meant a lot to this community and the families who had children go to that school.
Thanks for watching this edition of the Museum Roadshow on TV3. Remember, on the Museum Roadshow, history repeats itself every 4 hours.